I'm sorry, Charlotte, but Rosewood Manor is no longer available for your date. Your sister Victoria booked it this morning, for the same weekend. I stood in my apartment, phone pressed to my ear, and felt my entire world tilt sideways. I'm sorry, I said slowly. Can you repeat that? The wedding coordinator's voice was apologetic but firm. Victoria came in at 9 a.m. with a deposit check. She specifically requested June 14th. She mentioned you'd recommended the venue to her and that you'd be flexible with your date. Flexible? My sister told them I'd be flexible. I'd been planning my wedding for 11 months. I'd put down a deposit on Rosewood Manor 8 months ago. I'd chosen June 14th because it was the anniversary of the day Daniel proposed. And my sister, my maid of honor, had walked in that morning and stolen it. Not a different venue. My venue. Not a different date. My date. I wish I could tell you I screamed. That I confronted her immediately. That I burned everything down right then and there. But I didn't. I said, "Thank you for letting me know," hung up the phone and sat in complete silence for 45 minutes. Because this wasn't the first time Victoria had taken something from me. It was just the first time she'd taken something I couldn't pretend didn't matter. But here's what my sister didn't know. She didn't know that 3 years later, she'd be standing at her second wedding. Yes, the first marriage lasted exactly 18 months, and I'd be sitting in the audience with a secret that would unravel everything. She thought she'd gotten away with it. She thought I'd forgotten. She thought wrong. Before I tell you exactly what happened at that second wedding, let me take you back to the beginning. Because you need to understand what Victoria stole before you can understand what I took back. Quick question before we dive in. Where are you watching from right now? Drop your city and country in the comments. I'm always amazed at how far these stories travel. Last week someone commented from a small village in Norway, and that absolutely made my day. Alright, let's go back to where it all began. Growing up, people called us the package deal. Victoria and Charlotte. 3 years apart but always together. Matching Halloween costumes, shared secrets, late-night talks in the bedroom we shared until I was 12. I worshipped her. She was everything I wanted to be. Confident, magnetic, effortlessly charming. When she walked into a room, people noticed. When I walked in, I was Victoria's little sister. And for a long time, I didn't mind. But looking back now, I can see the pattern that was invisible to me then. When I got a solo in the school choir, Victoria suddenly developed an interest in singing. She auditioned the next year and got the lead in the musical. I went back to the chorus. When I made the volleyball team, Victoria decided she wanted to try out too. She made varsity. I stayed on JV. When I got my first boyfriend at 16, a sweet guy named Marcus who wrote me poetry, Victoria casually mentioned at dinner that she thought he was kind of cute. 2 weeks later, I found out they'd been texting. She didn't date him. She didn't even want him. She just needed to know she could have him if she wanted. That was Victoria's pattern. Whatever I had, she needed to prove she could have too, but better. I told myself it was a coincidence. That I was being paranoid. That sisters naturally have overlapping interests. Our parents certainly saw it that way. You girls are just so similar. Mom would say, laughing. Of course you like the same things. But we didn't like the same things. Victoria liked whatever I had. There's a difference. I know what you're thinking. Charlotte, why didn't you see this sooner? And honestly, I've asked myself that question 1,000 times. The answer is simple. When you grow up being gaslit, you don't know you're being gaslit. You just think you're crazy. You think you're jealous. You think you're the problem. It took losing my wedding venue and everything that came after for me to finally see the truth. By the time I turned 25, I thought we'd outgrown the competition. Victoria was 30, working as a marketing director, dating a string of men who never lasted more than 6 months. I was building my career in architecture, quietly successful, finally feeling like I'd carved out my own identity. Then I met Daniel. Daniel was different from anyone I'd ever dated. He was patient, kind, and, most importantly, completely unimpressed by superficial charm. He saw through people. When I introduced him to Victoria at a family dinner, I watched her do what she always did. The hair flip, the lingering eye contact, the casual touch on his arm. But Daniel didn't react. He just smiled politely and turned back to me. I saw something flash across Victoria's face that night. Something I'd never seen before. She couldn't have him. And she knew it. For 2 years, I thought that was the end of it. Daniel and I built a relationship that was solid, real, unshakable. He proposed on a quiet evening at home. No grand gesture, just the two of us and the life we were building together. I said yes before he finished the question. When I told Victoria, she hugged me and said all the right things. I'm so happy for you. He's perfect for you. I want to help with everything. I believed her. Because I wanted to. Rosewood Manor wasn't just a venue to me. It was where my grandmother had gotten married in 1962. Where my parents had renewed their vows on their 25th anniversary. Where I'd attended my first wedding as a flower girl and decided that someday I'd walk down an aisle under those oak trees. I'd been dreaming of getting married there since I was 7 years old. When Daniel and I got engaged, Rosewood Manor was the first and only venue I considered. I called them the morning after the proposal. They had exactly one weekend available in the next 18 months, June 14th. The same date Daniel had proposed, just 1 year later. It felt like fate. I put down the deposit that week. I told everyone in my family. I started a Pinterest board with the header Rosewood Dreams. And I asked Victoria to be my maid of honor. She cried when I asked her. Charlotte, this means everything to me. I'm going to make sure you have the most perfect wedding anyone's ever seen. I hugged her so tight. I had no idea she was already taking notes. Over the next 8 months, Victoria was the perfect maid of honor. She came to every venue visit, taking photos and asking detailed questions. She helped me pick out flowers, discussed color palettes, and researched catering options. She was at every appointment, every tasting, every meeting with the wedding coordinator. She was so involved that the staff at Rosewood Manor knew her by name. I thought she was being supportive. She was actually being strategic. Now, you might be wondering, how did she even have the money to steal my venue? Great question. What I didn't know was that Victoria had started dating someone new. His name was Gregory, a real estate developer 15 years her senior with a divorce settlement that had left him very, very comfortable. They'd been dating for exactly 4 months when he proposed. And Victoria, who had spent those 4 months helping me plan my wedding, decided she wanted everything I had, including my venue, my date, my dream. She just needed to get there first. The morning she stole my venue, I was at work designing blueprints for a new community center. My phone rang. I recognized the number, Rosewood Manor. Hi, Charlotte. Just calling to confirm the change in booking. What changed? Your sister Victoria came in this morning. She said you decided to move your wedding to September, so she'd be taking the June 14th date for her own wedding. She left a check for the full amount. She said you two had discussed it and you were happy to be flexible. My hands went cold. I never agreed to that. The coordinator paused. I'm sorry. I never told her she could take my date. I never agreed to move my wedding. That's my date. I put down a deposit 8 months ago. Long silence. I'm so sorry, Charlotte. She had the full payment. She said you'd recommended the venue to her. I assumed. You assumed wrong. I hung up the phone and sat at my desk, staring at nothing. My sister had walked into my dream venue, lied to the staff, and stolen my wedding date. And she'd done it with a smile. I picked up my phone to call her. Then I stopped. Because I realized something. If I called her now, she'd have an excuse. A lie. A way to spin it. She'd make me the crazy one, the jealous one, the overreacting one. I needed to think. I needed to plan. I needed to understand exactly what I was dealing with. We're about 10 minutes in, and this is where things get really intense. If you're still with me, drop a fire in the comments. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time. You don't want to miss what happens at Victoria's second wedding. Alright, let me tell you what happened when I confronted her. I didn't call Victoria. I went to her apartment. I drove 30 minutes across town with my hands shaking on the steering wheel and my mind racing through every possible explanation. Maybe it was a misunderstanding. Maybe she meant to book a different weekend. Maybe she didn't realize she was taking on my date. But even as I thought those things, I knew they weren't true. Victoria answered the door in a silk robe. champagne glass in hand. Charlotte. What a surprise. She actually smiled. Like nothing was wrong. Like she hadn't just destroyed everything. You took my venue. Her smile flickered for just a second. Then I recovered. Oh honey, I was going to call you about that. You told them I agreed to switch dates. You told them I'd be flexible. I thought you would be. I mean, I'm the older sister. My wedding should come first, right? And Gregory really wanted a June wedding. The June date worked better for his schedule. I stared at her. Victoria, I've been planning my wedding for almost a year. June 14th is the anniversary of my engagement. Rosewood Manor is where Grandma got married. Right, but now you can find somewhere else. There are so many beautiful venues. This way, we can both have our special days without competing. We weren't competing. You stole my venue. Her face hardened. Don't be dramatic, Charlotte. It doesn't suit you. That sentence, don't be dramatic, hit me like a slap. Because I'd heard it my entire life. Every time I expressed hurt. Every time I called out her behavior. Every time I tried to stand up for myself. Don't be dramatic, Charlotte. Don't be jealous, Charlotte. Don't make a scene, Charlotte. I took a deep breath. I want you to call Rosewood Manor and give me back my date. I can't do that. I've already paid. The invitations are being printed. Your invitations are being printed? Victoria, you got engaged 3 weeks ago. Some of us move fast when we know what we want. I turned and walked out without another word. Because I finally understood something. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't sibling rivalry. This wasn't even jealousy. This was who Victoria had always been. I'd just never been ready to see it. I went home and told Daniel everything. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he took my hands. What do you want to do? I want to burn her life down. He nodded slowly. Okay, but not tonight. Tonight, we think. The next morning, I called my parents. I told them what happened. Every detail. I expected shock, outrage, support. What I got was silence. Then my mother sighed. Charlotte, you know how Victoria is. She gets excited about things. I'm sure she didn't mean to hurt you. She stole my wedding venue, Mom. Deliberately. She lied to get it. But maybe you could find somewhere else? It would mean so much to Victoria if you could just... If I could just what? Roll over? Let her take whatever she wants? Like I've been doing my entire life. My father chimed in. Honey, we don't want drama between you girls. This is supposed to be a happy time for the family. Happy time for the family. Not a happy time for me. Happy time for the family. As if I wasn't part of it. As if my happiness didn't count. I hung up the phone and sat in my living room for a long time. Daniel brought me tea. Sat next to me. Didn't say anything. Finally, I spoke. They want me to give up my venue so Victoria can have it. I heard. They've always done this. Always. Whatever Victoria wants, Victoria gets. And I'm supposed to be the understanding one. The flexible one. The one who makes things easy. Daniel squeezed my hand. So what do you want to do? I thought about it. Really thought. I want to stop being the easy one. The next 2 weeks were warfare. Not loud warfare. Quiet warfare. The kind fought with phone calls and group texts and family dinners where no one mentioned the elephant crushing the table. Victoria launched her campaign immediately. She called every family member before I could. She told them her version of the story, that we'd discussed switching venues, that I'd seemed okay with it, that I was now overreacting for attention. By the time I tried to explain my side, the narrative was already set. Aunt Patricia, honey, Victoria said you offered her the date. Cousin Emma, I heard you were thinking of changing venues anyway. Uncle Robert, family is family. Don't let a party location ruin things. A party location. My grandmother's wedding venue. My dream since childhood. The date of my engagement. A party location. The worst moment came at Sunday dinner, 2 weeks after the venue theft. Victoria was there with Gregory, glowing, showing off her ring, accepting congratulations. My mother pulled me aside in the kitchen. Charlotte, I need you to apologize to Victoria. Apologize? For what? For causing tension. For making this difficult. She's very hurt that you're being so cold to her. She stole my venue. SHE lied. She. Please, Charlotte. Just keep the peace. For the family. I looked at my mother, really looked at her, and saw something I'd never let myself see before. She wasn't neutral. She wasn't trying to keep peace. She was choosing Victoria. She'd always been choosing Victoria. I just hadn't been willing to accept it until that moment. That night, I made two decisions. Decision one, Daniel and I would find a new venue. Not because I was giving in. Not because I was being flexible. But because I refused to let Victoria's theft define my wedding. We found a beautiful vineyard 2 hours outside the city. It wasn't Rosewood Manor, but it was ours. Untainted by her shadow. Decision 2. I was done performing for my family. I wouldn't apologize to Victoria. I wouldn't pretend things were fine. I wouldn't make myself small so everyone else could be comfortable. If that made me the difficult one, so be it. I called my mother and told her we'd found a new venue. Oh, wonderful. So can everything go back to normal? No, Mom. Things aren't normal. Victoria stole my venue, lied about it, and you asked me to apologize. That's not normal. That's enabling. Charlotte, I don't think you understand. I understand perfectly. I've understood my whole life. I just kept hoping I was wrong. I told her I'd still come to family events when Daniel and I were available, but I was done pretending Victoria hadn't done what she did. You're being very hurtful right now. Welcome to my entire childhood, Mom. I hung up. Now, if this story ended here, it would just be sad. A family that chose the golden child. A sister who got away with everything. A wedding that happened at a backup venue instead of the dream location. But that's not where this story ends. Because 3 years later, Victoria's life started falling apart. And I got an invitation I never expected. Okay, we're about halfway through, and this is where everything changes. If you're enjoying this story, hit that subscribe button right now. I post new revenge tales every week, and trust me, you're going to want to see what happens next. Also, quick poll for the comments. Do you think Charlotte should have fought harder for Rosewood Manor, or was finding a new venue the right move? I'm curious what you would have done. Alright, let's talk about those 3 years. My wedding was beautiful. The vineyard was draped in fairy lights. Daniel cried when he saw me walk down the aisle. My grandmother's pearl earrings were my something old. Victoria didn't come. She sent a card that said, "Congratulations. Sorry we couldn't make it. Gregory had a business conflict. Can't wait to celebrate with you soon. XOXO. Gregory had a business conflict. On a Saturday. For her only sister's wedding. My parents came, but they were uncomfortable the whole time. They kept looking around like they expected Victoria to appear. When I caught my mother checking her phone during the ceremony, I knew who she was texting. But I didn't let it ruin my day. Because that day wasn't about them. It was about Daniel and me. Our life. Our future. A future that didn't include people who couldn't show up for me. Victoria's wedding, NY venue, on my date, happened 2 weeks later. I didn't go. I was on my honeymoon in Portugal, drinking wine and watching the sunset with my husband. I heard about it afterward, though. My Aunt Patricia called it stunning. My mother posted 47 photos on Facebook. Everyone gushed about how romantic Victoria and Gregory were. I muted the notifications and moved on. Or at least, I tried to. The first year of Victoria's marriage looked perfect on Instagram. Vacation photos. Date night selfies. A new house in the suburbs. The second year, the posts slowed down. By month 18, they stopped completely. I found out through my cousin Emma, who had always been neutral in our family drama, that Victoria and Gregory were divorcing. It was bad, Emma said quietly on the phone. He caught her with someone else. His business partner, apparently. It's been going on for almost a year. His business partner. Victoria had cheated on her wealthy husband with his business partner. The same sister who had lectured me about loyalty. The same sister who had stolen my venue because she deserved a perfect wedding. The same sister who had everything handed to her on a silver platter. She'd thrown it all away. I wish I could tell you I felt nothing but compassion. But I didn't. I felt something darker. Something that had been waiting for a very long time. Not joy exactly. Not celebration. Vindication. For the first time in my life, Victoria was facing consequences for her actions. And this was just the beginning. After her divorce, Victoria went quiet. No Instagram posts. No family appearances. No dramatic announcements. For 3 years, I heard almost nothing about her. During those 3 years, my life flourished. Daniel and I bought a house. I got promoted to lead architect at my firm. We had a daughter, Luna, who became the center of our universe. I built the life I'd always wanted. And I did it without constantly looking over my shoulder for Victoria's shadow. But I'd be lying if I said I'd forgotten. Every Christmas, when I saw my parents fussing over whatever update Victoria had provided, I remembered. Every family dinner, when someone mentioned her name in hushed tones like she was fragile, I remembered. The venue. The lies. The way my mother asked me to apologize. I remembered all of it. I didn't hold on to it every day. I wasn't consumed by it. I had too much good in my life to dwell in bitterness. But when the invitation arrived 3 years after her divorce, everything came flooding back. The envelope was cream-colored, expensive, hand-addressed in calligraphy. Victoria Elaine Morrison and Bradley James Thornton request the honor of your presence at their marriage celebration. Victoria was getting married again. I stared at the invitation for a long time. Then I noticed the venue. Rosewood Manor. She was getting married at Rosewood Manor. Again. Different husbands. Same venue. The venue she'd stolen from me. And now she was inviting me to watch her do it all over again. The audacity was breathtaking. Daniel found me in the kitchen, invitation in hand, laughing in a way that wasn't entirely sane. What is it? I handed him the invitation. He read it. Read it again. Look at me. She's kidding, right? Victoria never kids about weddings. We sat at the kitchen table, Luna playing in the next room, and discussed our options. Option 1, decline. Don't engage. Let her have her wedding in peace. Option 2, accept. Go to the wedding. Smile politely. Leave early. Option 3, something else entirely. What do you mean something else? Daniel asked. I thought about my mother's journal. The one I'd found last Christmas, when I was helping her organize the attic. The one she didn't know I'd photographed before putting it back. The one that contained entries about Victoria's wild phase in her 20s, including detailed accounts of Victoria's multiple affairs, financial manipulations, and the real reason her first husband's business partner affair had started. Victoria had been systematically cheating for years. Before Gregory. During Gregory. And apparently, she was still at it. Bradley, her new fiancé, was wealthy. Very wealthy. Old money. Traditional family. The kind of family that would not look kindly on Victoria's history. I think, I said slowly, it's time Victoria faced some consequences. I need to be very clear about something. I am not a cruel person. I don't believe in revenge for revenge's sake. I don't enjoy watching people suffer. But I also believe in justice. And accountability. And the idea that actions should have consequences. Victoria had spent her entire life escaping consequences. Every lie, every manipulation, every theft, someone else always paid the price. Usually me. The week before Victoria's wedding, I RSVP'd yes. Not just for me and Daniel. I also reached out to someone I hadn't spoken to in years. Gregory. Victoria's first husband. Charlotte. He sounded shocked when he answered. I haven't heard from you since, well, I know. And I'm sorry for calling out of the blue. But I need to ask you something. Okay? Did Victoria ever tell you about what really happened with my wedding venue? Silence. What do you mean really happened? That's when I knew. Victoria had lied to him too. Just like she lied to everyone. I told Gregory everything. About how she'd stolen my venue by pretending I'd agreed to switch dates. About how she'd spent 8 months as my maid of honor, learning every detail of my wedding, only to take it for herself. About how she'd painted me as the jealous, difficult sister when I objected. Gregory was quiet for a long moment. That actually explains a lot. What do you mean? When we were planning our wedding, the one at Rosewood, she was obsessed with making sure every detail was perfect. But it wasn't like she was building something. It was like she was out copying something. She had this binder full of specific notes. Flower arrangements. Table settings. Even the exact wording for the invitations. My stomach dropped. She copied my wedding planning binder. I think she might have. Gregory and I talked for 2 hours that night. About Victoria. About her patterns. About the affairs he'd discovered and the ones he suspected. And about Bradley Thornton, the new fiancé. He has no idea what he's getting into, Gregory said. Victoria is. She's very good at what she does. I know. Are you going to the wedding? Yes. Why? I told him my plan. Gregory was quiet for a long moment. That's ambitious. I know. And potentially very messy. I know that too. But you're going to do it anyway. She stole my wedding venue, Gregory. She lied to my family for years. She's about to marry someone who has no idea who she really is. And she's doing it at the same venue she stole from me. Like it means nothing. I took a breath. I'm done being the sister who keeps quiet so everyone else can be comfortable. Victoria has been hurting people her entire life, and everyone just lets her. Not anymore. Gregory agreed to help. Not because he wanted Victoria to suffer. He'd made peace with his divorce long ago. But because Bradley Thornton reminded him of himself. A good man, deceived by a woman who saw him as a means to an end. He deserves to know, Gregory said. Before he signs that marriage license, he deserves the truth. We made a plan. It wasn't about humiliation. It wasn't about cruelty. It was about finally, after all these years, telling the truth. Alright, we're in the final stretch now. The wedding is about to happen, and everything Charlotte has been planning is about to unfold. If you're on the edge of your seat right now, smash that like button and drop a comment with your prediction. What do you think happens next? Does Victoria get exposed? Does Charlotte back out at the last minute? I want to hear your theories. Let's finish this. The day of Victoria's wedding was perfect. June weather. Clear skies. Rosewood Manor looked like a fairy tale, draped in white flowers and twinkling lights. I walked in with Daniel, wearing a stunning emerald dress, green, not white, I wasn't that petty, and carrying myself with a calm I didn't entirely feel. My mother spotted me immediately. Charlotte, you came. She hugged me like nothing had ever been wrong between us. Victoria is going to be so happy. I smiled. I hope so. The ceremony was beautiful. Victoria glowed in a designer gown. Bradley looked at her like she was the center of his universe. I watched from the third row, Gregory beside me under the guise of the first husband coming to show support and maturity. Victoria had actually been pleased when he RSVP'd. She saw it as proof that everyone forgave her eventually. The vows were traditional. The kiss was perfect. The 300 guests applauded. And then came the reception. At wedding receptions, there's a moment when the couple takes their first dance, and everyone watches, champagne in hand, before the toasts begin. This is traditionally when the maid of honor speaks. Then the best man. Then, sometimes family members. Victoria's maid of honor gave a glowing speech about sisterhood and loyalty. I nearly choked on my champagne. The best man talked about Bradley's good heart and how lucky Victoria was to have found him. Then my mother stood up. If anyone else would like to say a few words, now's the time. I stood up. The room went quiet. Victoria's face flickered. Surprise, then uncertainty, then a forced smile. Charlotte, how wonderful. I didn't know you wanted to speak. I hope you don't mind, I said smoothly. I've been waiting a long time to say this. I walked to the front of the room, champagne glass in hand, and faced 300 guests. Hello, everyone. For those who don't know me, I'm Charlotte. Victoria's younger sister. Polite applause. I wasn't originally going to speak tonight. But then I realized that this venue, this beautiful historic venue, has a very special meaning to me. You see, I was supposed to get married here. 4 years ago. I'd been planning my wedding at Rosewood Manor for almost a year. I watched Victoria's face drain of color. But 2 weeks before my wedding, Victoria booked this venue for herself. She told the staff I'd agreed to switch dates. She copied my entire wedding plan. Flowers, decorations, everything. And when I objected, my family asked me to apologize for causing tension. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I've spent 4 years being the difficult sister. The jealous one. The one who couldn't move on. And I'm done. I turned to Bradley. Bradley, you seem like a genuinely good man. And I think you deserve to know who you just married. I pulled out my phone. This is a recording of Victoria from 3 weeks ago, talking to a man named Marcus Reynolds, her affair partner from her first marriage, who she's been seeing continuously for the past 5 years. I pressed play. Victoria's voice filled the room. Bradley's so boring, but he's got enough money to keep me comfortable for life. Once I secure the trust fund access, I'll have options. You know, I'd rather be with you. But this is about stability now. The room exploded. Victoria screamed. Actually screamed, lunging toward me like she could somehow take the words back. Bradley caught her arm, his face a mask of shock and betrayal. Is that real? He demanded. Victoria, is that real? Victoria tried to spin. Of course she did. It's edited. She manipulated it. Charlotte has always been jealous of me. But Gregory was already standing, walking to the front of the room. I was married to Victoria for 18 months, he said calmly. And I can verify that this is exactly who she is. The affairs. The manipulation. The lies. This is a pattern. He looked at Bradley with something like compassion. I'm sorry, man. I wish someone had warned me too. Bradley looked at Victoria. At the guests. At the venue that was supposed to celebrate their love. I need to leave, he said quietly. Bradley, no. Don't listen to them. They're lying. I heard your voice, Victoria. That was your voice. He walked out of Rosewood Manor without looking back. Victoria collapsed into hysterics. My mother rushed to her side, glaring at me with pure hatred. But my father, quiet, passive, enabler of a lifetime father, just stared at me. And for the first time in my life, I saw something in his eyes. Respect. That was 2 years ago. Victoria's second marriage was annulled. Bradley's family pressed charges for fraud, something about financial documents Victoria had forged. She moved to another state. I don't know where. I don't care. My parents and I don't speak much anymore. My mother chose Victoria, as she always did. But my father calls sometimes. We're slowly rebuilding something. And me? I have Daniel. I have Luna. I have a life filled with people who show up for me. People ask me if I regret what I did. The answer is no. Victoria spent her entire life stealing from people, their venues, their partners, their peace of mind. And everyone let her because confronting her was uncomfortable. I was done being comfortable. Sometimes, the sweetest revenge isn't about destruction. It's about the truth. It's about finally saying out loud what everyone was too afraid to acknowledge. And it's about walking away with your integrity intact. Revenge is sweet, but the truth is sweeter. So tell me, where are you watching from right now? Drop your city, your country, even just your time zone. I love seeing how far these stories travel. Last week, someone watched from a fishing boat in Alaska. Beat that. And if this story resonated with you, if you've ever had a Victoria in your life, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. New tales of sweet, satisfying karma drop every single week. I'll see you in the next one.